Good morning, welcome to part 2 of making 2 Regency dresses. Today I'm hoping to go through the full twirling process of the corset. I have a bit of trouble with the corset because I want to use this book, Regency's Women's Dress by Cassidy, Percoco. I might not pronounce that correctly. The problem, however, is if I start counting the squares, the corset is, 40 inches on the waist, on the smallest point of the body. I have a 27-inch waist. It's also extremely long, like it's 20 inches long. That's like 50 centimeters. So I'm a little bit confused about that. Alternatively, there is a pattern in this book. This is Stays and Corsets by Mandy Barrington. Problem with this one is though that it is from the 1820s, whereas the one from the Regency's Women's Dress book is from 1805 to 1815. Then there's a pattern in here, Norah, Waugh, Corsets and Crinolines. Yet again, it's from the late 1820s. So I'm a little bit stuck. I could use any of these patterns, I could try combining them, but I've lately been thinking maybe I should drape it. Use the pattern in this one to kind of figure out what the shape should be and then drape it on my dress form. Of course, I have to lengthen the waist after that, but I think it'll be about the starting point. You could say in this book, yeah, but what if the grid, the scale is slightly different? If that is so, the waist comes down to 20 inches and the front length is 10, which seems very, very short and small to me. So I'm not entirely sure if that is correct. Since I do not know the measurements, since I do not know all of the things about it, I think I'm going to go and drape it and use this grid in the book as a reference point. Why I kind of refuse to use the other two books is those corsets are made out of several pieces, so you have a front, a side and a back piece, whereas the Regency's Women's Dress corset is one big piece and it's all with inserts or gores. Gussets. They call them corsets. I'm planning on spending today all day trying to figure out the pattern, and hopefully by the end of the day I have a pattern I can start on tomorrow. Also, I went fabric shopping recently and I came along a store with loads and loads of lace, and I found this beautiful lace, which I'm gonna add to the bottom of the petticoat. I have my first twirl pattern ready. I think you've seen it, or I'm showing it now, but I have draped this where I took a rectangular piece of fabric that I basically put on straight on the waist, and then wherever it started basically pulling, I cut a slit, and at that slit is the point where I would put a gusset. So now I'm going to make a twirl out of this. I have already, you can see a faint line up here. This was the original waistline. I've dropped it with like 10 centimeters in experience of my, I think it's 2 videos ago where I had to keep dropping the waist constantly. So I've measured the waist, nape to waist, and it's like 32 centimeters and mine is 42. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna immediately drop it 10 centimeters. And if I need to raise it, I can do that. That's fine. On to twirling. My favorite part. I'm not looking forward to this, but let's hope it's successful. I have my first twirl ready and I'm actually really happy with it. As you can see, this is also my first time putting on the shift. I need to pinch out a little bit here in the shoulder. The corset is miraculously too long-waisted. That is where it should be. That is where it is right now. I also figured that the underbust line is a little too high, so there it is. I'm gonna move that and I'm gonna lower it because right now it's actually a little bit too high. I want it like right there, just at the highest point of the bust. And I'm gonna take this alteration and put it everywhere because I think it's a little too high in general. Right now, I don't know if you can see, I'll show it. I have false backs in. If you're ever going to make a corset, make sure you get false backs because that way you don't have to do like awkward fittings with just the rope or whatever in there. I really do like the length. I think I'm gonna shorten it a little bit to like where the gusset ends. But that's it. Yeah, I'm really happy with it. There is a little bit of a gap in the back. I don't mind that too much. The mannequin I draped this on is a little bit smaller than I am. But I think this is actually quite a nice little gap. It's, by the way, the false backs. Little trick I learned in school. They also don't come up all the way high. So right now this is too loose. But I think that's going to be solved once I have some tension upon here. The straps are too long, but the straps will be adjustable. So that's fine. First, it's well done. I think I'm going to make a second one just to be sure before I start cutting in my pretty fabric. I have the pattern finished and I'm like super duper happy with that. It only took 2 swells. The second one I did not show because when I fitted it I didn't have anything underneath other than my tights and a tank, so I felt like that wasn't very appropriate for YouTube. So I'm really sorry for not showing it, but it did fit a lot better than the first one. I ended up lengthening a few of the gussets. I had to lengthen the strap quite a bit. And another thing I did was I made the front gusset wider than the side gusset because the book showed it that way and I was kind of like, well, yeah, that of course makes sense. I've all of the markings done, so now I know how to put the gussets in, and yeah, I'm really happy with this. I'm gonna put it away for now because tonight I want to work on a personal project, but tomorrow I'm gonna come back to this and start cutting out, and hopefully we can make quite a bit of progress tomorrow. So I've just cut everything out, but I had to be a little bit mindful of where to place all the pieces because I don't know if you can see it, but this fabric is, I think, something of a remnant that was used as a tablecloth, and it has some hefty stains on them. But it is a quite nice and sturdy fabric. I don't think it's a twill, but it's also not satin. I'm not exactly sure what kind of weave this is. I decided to cut around all of the stains, and as far as I know, no stains on the actual corset. Next step is basting all the pieces together. I think for all of the small pieces, the strap I will be sewing together along the line. There, and turn right side out, just because I think that's going to be a little bit nicer to do it that way. All of the gussets will be sewn on separately. So I'll be sewing on the inside first, then sewing on the outside. So that's not necessary to baste those. For the main part of the corset, however, I am going to put some basting lines in. I'm going to put one around each of the gusset insert slits, and I will also be basting around here and probably also alongside where the bust will be. Hi, I don't know since when I talked to you, but I have some updates. I've also quilted, or made an attempt at quilting the bottom half. It's not perfect. I think it's fine. I think it looks cute. I decided on a pink because I have a pink lace that I want to put down the busk. And I also have some pink bias binding that I will put on the bottom and also on the top. So that's my decision for pink. This is the inside, by the way. This is what the outside looks like. However, I made a small mistake. I started quilting these panels where I should have put them right sides together first so I could put the cording in. So now I have to do that differently. So what I'm going to do, I've made the outside layer a little bigger. I think it's a 1/4 inch bigger than the inside layer. And I'm going to stop stitch together and go like really much on the edge. And then I'm going to sew 2 rows of cording in, and then if done correctly, I'll have at least this, which is a centimeter of space to sew in the lacing holes. First things first, I'm going to level these and top stitch them together. And then I'm going to cut 4 lengths of cording and sew those in. Don't worry, my machine is not broken. I'm just using this one because this has a zipper foot. And with this one I can actually come a lot closer to the cording than with my own machine. So this is where I'm leaving it for tonight. It's been quilted, it's been corded, and I've sewn in the busk channel and removed the basting stitches like right beside it. So I'm exactly where I want to be. Tomorrow, hopefully, I get enough time to put in all of the gussets and to add the lace, and then do the sewing, the machine sewing on the binding. And after that, it's only hand sewing. I think it's coming along quite quickly, actually. I decided to do all of this by machine simply because of speed. I do not have the time to do this by hand the way it would have been done. I did decide on using cording in favor of boning. I don't think I have the right boning, and also I know the accent garment I'm taking as a close inspiration does have like 2 rows of cording here. I believe it also has some cording here. I didn't do that one, mostly because I forgot, and now that I've all this in, I'm not going to do it. The cording is flat on the inside, so it's nice and smooth against my body, and the bulk of it is on the outside. Also, my trick worked. It's been top stitched right here, and then I have 2 rows of cording, and then I have a little bit of space for the eyelets. It's not as much as I wanted it to be, but it's enough. I'm not going to do big eyelets anyway. So I'm really happy with this, and now I'm going to go to bed because tomorrow will be busy as well. Good night. Hi, it's Monday afternoon. I have this afternoon and tomorrow to get my corset finished before I go on my trip, or at the very least get it to the hand sewing stage. As you've probably seen, I have done all of the quilting, all of the top stitching, and now I'm having to put the straps and the gussets on. And I'm a little bit unsure about the straps, especially finishing them, but I think I have a way figured out, and it's going to take me a little longer in terms of hand sewing, but I'm willing to do it. Another thing I need to consider is the busk. The front busk. I need to somehow come up with a solution of either metal or wood to get that sorted. I'm hoping I can rig something out of bamboo, maybe? That would be really, really nice because that's rather flexible, but we'll see. For today, however, it is cutting open the slits here, here, and here. Here. Putting the straps on and putting all of the gussets in. I'm gonna do the straps first because I'd like to
keep these closed for as long as possible, so I'm probably doing them one by one as well, just because I want to avoid fraying as much as possible. I have just top stitched in all of the gussets on the right side, and now I'm gonna show on the left hip gusset how I do this. This is the gusset. First thing I will do is cut it out. I will also cut off the tip here, and then I will go over to my ironing board, press in all of the edges until it touches that line, which is a 1 centimeter seam allowance, which means I have half a centimeter of seam allowance. Now I'm gonna let this cool down and repeat on this side. So whilst the front side is now cooling down a little bit, I'm gonna start with cutting the slit and pinning the back side in. I have already prepped the slit, made 2 lines beside it, which are both half a centimeter away from it, which will guide me into where to place it. Now we have a notch, which will go matched, and now we can pin it in. I decided to do it this way because the book said that the gussets were all top stitched in place, so I decided that's what I wanted to do. However, if I'm already doing all of the quilting with the machine, I might as well do the top stitching with the machine as well. I do need to be a bit careful because I have half a centimeter of seam allowance, which isn't much. But I'm edge stitching, so you don't need that much for that. Now I'm gonna sew this down. I've sewn down the inside layer. Now I'm going to pin on the outside layer, and on the outside I have the green teal guidelines, but they're a little bit too far out for me to actually be guidelines, so what I'm using is the stitching I just did, and I know it has to go just past that. I do sew the inside layer with like an off-white kind of color, so if there's anything that kind of peeks out, it's not as noticeable, so I would have done it with pink, even though the pink isn't that noticeable. So now I have to change the thread color and then I can sew it. Got at the top, and there I backstitched just for a little bit of reinforcements. And now I'm gonna go down the other side and I'm gonna backstitch at the top as well. Oh, damn it! I ran out of thread. And that's how you sew on the gusset. It's not the neatest one I did. As you can see, there is some stitches. This is why I do them in white, just so they're less noticeable. But the rest does look good. And now I'm going to continue doing these two off camera. And I'll come back once it's time for binding, I think. Oh, I need to do the lace first, by the way. Then I can do the binding. All of the gussets are in. That took not as long as I expected. So now what I'm going to do is do the lace down center front. And how I'm going to do it is I'm going to pin the lace down here, with the pins quite a bit on the inside. Then I'll flip it around and sew it from the other side, making sure that everything lays nicely on this side, of course. And hopefully that way I can get it in rather smoothly.
Good morning, tomorrow I'm leaving on my trip, so today is the only day I have left to finish my corset, and I have it very far finished. Up until now, what I said I wanted to do that day, I've been able to do. All of the machine work, most of the machine work is done. The only thing was to sew on the bias binding properly. I had to take off the straps. So now I'm going to hand sew the bias binding down on the other side, and I'm going to sew the straps back on. I need to find some sort of busk. I'm hoping I can find something at a thrift store. So that's what I'm gonna do. Today is gonna be mostly hand sewing. So I suppose I'm just gonna get started.
All of the machine sewing is done, which means now I will be bringing it downstairs, put on the TV, and do some hand sewing. Okay, as you can see, my background is very different. That's because I'm on my trip. I didn't finish the corset before I went, so I had to finish it here. I'm at some relatives right now, and they were very fine with it. So I think I'm gonna end it here. All I had to do were eyelets, and I have quite some footage of that, so I'll show that after this. Thank you for watching. I hope you liked it. If you would like to see more, stick around for the next video, which will be the first of the true Regency dresses. On to the next stash busting project. But first, eyelets.